You were counting treasures without me, weren't you, Uncle? These are just the things that you don't need, aren't they? Jintong complained with her brows tightly furrowed in displeasure. You were sleeping really soundly after eating that cauldron, so I thought I'd let you sleep. Hanli replied in a sheepish manner. Jintong immediately pouted with displeasure upon hearing this. Clearly not very satisfied with Hanli's answer, the Jade Pixiu was looking back and forth at Hanli and Jintong upon seeing this, seemingly a little confused. This bracelet is for you. You can have everything inside it, Hanli said as he raised a hand to summon another storage bracelet, which he handed to Jintong. The former owner of this storage bracelet was none other than Xianxia. Jintong was still looking rather displeased as she accepted the storage bracelet, but as soon as she inspected its contents, a wide smile immediately appeared on her face. You're the best, Uncle! Jintong quickly put on the storage bracelet, then stowed all of the other treasures on the ground away as well. While Hanli looked on with a faint smile, the Jade Pixiu was feeling very indignant at the sight of this differential treatment, and it could only lay its head down onto the ground with a dejected expression. Only then did Jintong notice the white Pixiu that was laying on the ground nearby, and she skipped over to its side before laying a hand down onto the top of its head. Where did you get this dog from, Uncle? Can I eat it? The Jade Pixiu immediately sprang up onto its haunches upon hearing this, and it yelled, What the hell are you saying, you little brat? I'll have you know that I'm a primordial true spirit. Did you just call me a little brat? A cold look appeared in Jintong's eyes as she bared her teeth in a menacing fashion. The Jade Pixiu immediately felt a chill run down its spine, but there was no way that it would allow its honor to be trampled upon by a little girl. So it immediately swelled to the size of a house once again as it roared. You asked for it! Jintong merely grinned as a burst of golden light appeared over her body. An exasperated look appeared on Hanli's face upon seeing this, and he turned and departed from the clearing. A few minutes later, peace and quiet returned to the island. Let's go. We need to make a trip back to Darkvale Island, Hanli said after erasing all traces of his visit from the island. He then swept a sleeve through the air to summon the green jade flying carriage that once belonged to Gongshuju before flying onto it. All right, let's go, Jintong yelled with an elated look on her face, and she was straddled atop the Jade Pixiu, which looked as if it wanted to die. Hurry up, Xiaobai, Jintong urged as she gave it a slap on the head. 1. The Jade Pixiu gave a distraught wail before carrying Jintong onto the flying carriage, which then sped away into the distance, vanishing out of sight in the blink of an eye. Several days later, a ball of green light appeared in the sky above an island, as if by instantaneous teleportation, and it left a long trail of after-images behind it. The ball of green light faded to reveal a green jade flying carriage, atop which stood Hanli, who was looking down at the carriage with a pleased look on his face. As expected of a flying immortal treasure used by a high zenith cultivator, the flying carriage was several times faster than the azure flying boat that he had previously used. However, due to how incredibly fast the flying carriage was, he was still yet to fully control it, so it was a little jarring whenever it drew to a halt. At this moment, Jintong was laying on her back on the flying carriage, sleeping soundly with her little belly exposed, while the Pixiu was laying in a corner of the carriage in a dejected fashion. Jintong had eaten a bunch of spirit treasures these past few days, and as a result, she had become quite drowsy. Her aura was also fluctuating unsteady while slowly growing more powerful, indicating that a breakthrough was imminent. A hint of elation flashed through Hanli's eyes as he detected Jintong's aura fluctuations. Jintong was already extremely powerful at this point, and even Hanli wasn't confident in his ability to defeat her in a one-on-one battle without using his time law powers. If she were to make another breakthrough, then she would naturally be an even more formidable ally. A contemplative look appeared on Hanli's face, following which he swept a hand through the air to release a burst of azure light that swept up Jintong before carrying her into a spirit beast pouch. She didn't like staying in spirit beast pouches, but given that a breakthrough was imminent, it was safer for her to be in one. The Pixiu immediately stood up upon seeing this, and before it had a chance to say anything, Hanley stowed it away into another spirit beast pouch, alongside some spirit treasures that were of no use to him. You can take a rest in this spirit beast pouch. Here are some spirit treasures that you can eat for your recovery. After that, he cast his gaze toward the sea down below. This region of the sea was previously a battleground between Black Wind Island and Azure Feather Island, but peace and quiet had since returned to the area. In fact, over the past few days, Hanli hadn't spotted even a single Black Wind Island or Azure Feather Island cultivator on the islands that he had passed by. After some brief thought, Hanli quickly realized why the conflict had suddenly subsided. It had to have been the case that the conflict between the two islands was only serving as a smokescreen set up by the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace to throw off all of the other powers so that they wouldn't be able to find the entrance of the Immortal Manor. Now that the Infernal Frost Immortal Manor had already come and gone, there was naturally no need for the conflict to continue. This was good news for all of the islands in the Blackwind Sea, including Darkvale. Island Darkvale Island. Hanli remained on the spot for a moment longer, then made a hand seal, upon which the green flying carriage flew into the distance, vanishing out of sight in the blink of an eye. Several more days passed by, and Darkvale Island finally came into view on the distant horizon. Right at this moment, Hanli suddenly stopped in his tracks, then cast his gaze to the left with a peculiar look on his face. He then immediately flew in that direction, arriving on an island not long thereafter. The island wasn't very large, far smaller than Darkvale Island, and it was very long and thin, resembling a willow leaf. Vegetation on the island was quite sparse, and there were large patches of gray rock exposed everywhere. An intrigued look appeared in Hanli's eyes as he inspected the island down below. This was none other than the island inhabited by the Cold Crystal race. And in the wake of Hanchu's demise, the island was claimed by Darkvale Island. At this moment, the entire island was enshrouded under a blue light barrier. Hanli took a glance at his surroundings, and he recalled that the scene that he had witnessed back in the Moonlight Palace after being sucked into the wall of light by the heaven-controlling vial was precisely this exact setting. However, even though this was the same island as the one he saw back then, there were still some differences between the two. Could it be? His eyes suddenly lit up slightly as he flew down into the sea near the island, then continued to descend through the water, quickly reaching the seabed. At the same time, he released his spiritual sense outward, and he quickly tracked down a giant rock on the seabed before unleashing a streak of sword chi to strike it. A huge hole was blasted into the rock, and Hanli reached into the hole to retrieve a green bracelet that was covered in mud. "This is it!" he exclaimed with an elated smile on his face at the sight of the green bracelet. This was the storage bracelet belonging to the Golden Immortal Stage nascent soul that Hanli had possessed during that vision. This was proof that the vision had been real, and he really had possessed a nascent soul from the ancient past, back when the Infernal Frost Immortal Palace was destroyed. With that in mind, he flipped a hand over to produce the heaven-controlling vial and began inspecting it in silence. Its ability to drastically accelerate the aging of spirit plants was already quite astonishing. Yet in addition to that, it had also developed the ability to send Hanli's soul into the past. It seemed that the first vision that he had experienced, back when he had possessed Ling Yunzi, had also been a past event. However, it was impossible to tell exactly what time period that was. There was also the scene depicting the portly monk and his 5 disciples, and even to this day, that scene remained fresh in Hanli's mind. Having said that, he still had no idea who the portly monk was. However, one thing was certain. The monk's cultivation base had to have been far superior to his own. Otherwise, there was no way that he would have been able to make such significant strides in his cultivation just from hearing the monk's preaching. After pondering the matter for a moment longer, Hanli stowed the heavenly controlling vial away. It was impossible for him to tell just how many secrets the heaven-controlling vial was harboring, but it was clear that it was even more profound than he had once imagined. With a sweep of his sleeve, Han Li released a burst of blue light that expelled all of the surrounding seawater, creating an empty bubble on the seabed. He then released the contents of the storage bracelet, revealing some immortal origin stones, spirit treasures, and pills, among other things. He had briefly examined these things during the vision, but due to the time constraints, he wasn't able to inspect them very thoroughly. And now that he had a chance to do so, he was very pleased by what he saw. There were around 50,000 to 60,000 immortal origin stones on the ground, which was a trifling amount compared with his current wealth. But it was still quite a significant sum. As for the spirit treasures, all of them were flying swords of high calibers, and there were as many as 60 to 70 of them. With the exceptions of a few swords, all of them were a light blue color, and they were also identical in shape and design, clearly indicating that this was a set of flying swords. After counting the swords thoroughly, Han Li discovered that there were 72 of them, just like his azure bamboo cloud swarm swords, and they were giving off bursts of faint star power fluctuations. Han Li only briefly examined these flying swords before looking away. All of them were peak spirit treasures that were only one step away from becoming immortal treasures. But they were still far inferior to his azure bamboo cloud swarm swords, and therefore not worthy of his attention. 1. Xiaobai is a very generic dog name in China, essentially equivalent to Fido or something like that.